This is Ryan Elliott for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. We're in London today with me, the Haymaker, David Haye. David, first and foremost, how are you?
Very well, thank you. All is good.
That's good to hear. Now, obviously, we've got a big heavyweight fight next weekend, which is why we're here. Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte, straight down to it. We've seen Tyson Fury change that style for the last two fights, adapting that more Kronk style. In terms of Dillian Whyte and what he brings, do you think that might actually suit Dillian in a way, if that is the approach we're going to see from Tyson Fury?
Yes, I think Tyson Fury's new style, or when you say new style, his style that he's implemented in his last two fights, has appeared to be very fan friendly. It's he hasn't, I'd say come close to losing, but he was decked pretty heavy. But the fans absolutely loved it. I was there ringside for both fights, and what he brought was magic. It really was. He came out there, as the #1 heavyweight in the division, with ultimate confidence in no matter what happens in there, he's going to find a way to win. He's going to go out there and he's just going to let his hands go. Obviously, he was slipping shots, he was moving in and out of range, but the intent was there to get the knockout, and it was there from the start. Deontay Wilder, particularly in the second fight, the third fight rather, was super aggressive, was implementing a really good game plan, but Tyson Fury adapted and he was able to just chew him up. And the style that he's been doing for the last two fights, I like it. I think it's great. In terms of how well will that do against Dillian Whyte, I think he needs someone aggressive to get the best out of him. What he'd struggle with is a long range. The boxer, the Tyson Fury that fought Derek Chisora or Klitschko, that's the fighter who doesn't want to fight the long range, turning southpaw, orthodox, not engaging in battle. Dillian's the sort of counterpuncher who needs you in his space, going toe to toe to get the best out of him. And I think, by all accounts, that's what Tyson Fury is. He's going to oblige him in a stand-up, toe-to-toe slugfest. Fantastic. The fans in Wembley Stadium are going to get an absolute treat because I know that Dillian Whyte's not going to run around trying to out-jab him. He knows if it goes the distance, the chances of you taking the title, the WBC title, to a lineal crown off the champion is slim by just trying to slightly outbox him. You got to really get your teeth stuck in, and that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be a slugfest from the first bell.
David, I'm sure I read somewhere that once upon a time Dillian Whyte was a sparring partner for yourself. I know that was back then, but can you tell us a bit about the attributes that stood out for you in terms of being in there with Dillian Whyte?
He's just tough and strong and rugged. At the time, he was very, very raw. He had, he had a massive and impressive kickboxing career. I think he beat every man he faced in 25 fights. As a kickboxer, open class. So he's a natural born fighter. I think he had an MMA fight as well. So he's as rough and tough as they come. He's a natural born, man to go toe to toe. So his attributes I found was his length of arm. He's got very, very long arms for his height. And I remember the first round sparring with him. I can remember only first round, just throwing jabs and whatnot, getting into it. And I remember just getting caught at the end of his jab. I remember thinking I should be out of range because of my thing's distance, and I should have been out of range for how high he was. But his arms are probably 2 or 3 inches longer than they should be. So I then had to readjust. But in heavyweight boxing, when the world title's on the line, when you're wearing 10-ounce gloves, that little readjustment that you can do in sparring is the difference between getting knocked spark out and not. So Tyson Fury is used to having the longer arms. He's used to having the physical advantages over his opponent. But I think that physical advantage of the arm length will be minimised because Dillian Whyte has freakishly long arms. I'm looking forward to seeing who actually has the longer wingspan of the two of them. So I think it'll be probably pretty similar, seeing though Tyson Fury is probably 5 inches taller than he is.
Last one, David. If you had your last pound, who wins and how?
I've had a pound, maybe the last pound, maybe a pound. If I had a pound to bet, I'd put it on Dillian Whyte for the upset, because instead of betting the favourites, I'll win like 10 pence back. I'll get £5 or £6 back for my pound. So it's my last pound. I'd want to quadruple it up or make a difference. So I go with Dillian Whyte. They're pulling off the massive upset. We had that massive upset with Anthony Joshua So it happens. Crazy stuff happens, and in the heavyweight division, when you think you got it all figured out, something crazy happens. So someone crazy is Dillian Whyte, and the fact that he's not interested in doing any promotion, all he wants to do is get in the ring and fight. I think that's a positive omen.